Good, don't touch anything. Hey everyone, hi. If you're joining us live, please say hello. Also, let us know that you're here, and everybody say hi to Peter. Hey, Peter. So we're in a room full of people already.
Okay.
For those of you who are tuning in and watching, I have some really amazing interviews coming up with the women that I have been working with over the last couple of years. And this year I've been really called for two things. I'm really like pulled and called for two things: expression and expansion. So there are so many super powerful stories that each and every one of us have, and there is so much more connection. Obviously, we learned that through last year, how important connection is, but also as well to know that that you're not the only one that goes through things, that you're not alone, that you're here, that there are other people around you. And I really think there's a lot of powerful stuff in sharing our story. So I would like to, first of all, welcome Peta, because she's first up, hands up, balls in. She's like, yep, let's go for it. Oh. So if you have any questions or there's any comments, we're going to check that later towards the end. So please feel free to pop them there. I'm super excited, so I'm like trying to say 10 things at once. Please pop them in the comments, and I will come back to it at the end with Peter, and we'll answer any questions that you have. But for now, just sit back, grab some popcorn, put your feet up, get the fan, and just enjoy the conversation. So where do we start, Peter?
It's been 6 years. 6 years.
6 years.
On and off, I've been working with you for 6 years.
Yeah. How cool is that? And literally it only feels like last year, right?
Yeah.
And actually, with those 6 years,
yep.
Sometimes I explain things like they're an onion, and it's like a layer. Yeah. So, it would be fair to say that, at each point that I've met you, I remember the walk that you came on with Pam. Was it the 1,000 steps? And I'm pretty sure that's where we had like our first serious in-depth conversation about what it was you wanted, what it was that you were wanting to create. And each meeting that we've had, or each experience that we've had together since then, has just been another layer deeper.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Story in amongst all the other layers that have been going on with yourself, what you've been processing in your own time, in your own space,
and even everyday life, like everyday life, like just
yes,
it happens.
So let's start from the beginning, because there's so much that's happened for you over the last 6 years, and I do want to touch on a lot of it, because no matter where it is that you are now, so much more is possible. And Peter, you are literally a walking, living example of this. So I really want to celebrate all of the things that you have achieved since embarking on the journey. So let's just backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
And sort of where were you beforehand? So where were you before our conversation, or how were you feeling for years prior? What was going on for you beforehand?
Sometimes I think you're not aware of exactly where you are. And this is where I've probably learned so much, where you go to people, you need to check yourself. And it's not that you get to check yourself once and go, yeah, I've done it, I'm out. You have to keep coming back, because if you don't make yourself self-aware and check yourself continually, like a work in progress, you will never be perfect.
I'm loving that you're saying check yourself, by the way. Check yourself.
You really do, because it's not like you can understand where you're at without revisiting and keep going back and reviewing where you're at and reshuffling your thoughts, or aligning what you think is important to you, because things will change in your life as to what's important. So to be quite honest, Pam, I think basically she called me up and she was sat me down about 6 years ago, and she was like, you have blown out. Like you have put on massive amounts of weight. Like you've blown out.
And this is your girlfriend,
Totally.
right?
Yeah, this is one of my best friends. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, you need to go to the gym. And I was like, gyms, no freaking way. And that was probably then she said to me, look, I want you to add this girl that I know. I'm friends, but I went to school with her as well. But I really feel that this would be straight down your level. So I actually got onto your page and just kind of sat back and watched for a while. At that stage, I'm 5 foot tall and I was topping 148 kilos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, then I did one of your courses to start off with, an online course.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much probably when the physical side of things, you can change the physical side of things and start working out and go to the gym and all that kind of stuff. But you hadn't even realized the mental side of things. And I think it took me I did like hard yards, maybe 3 or 4 years, gym wise.
Yeah.
And then I progressed and I went on the retreat with you. What was it, 2 years ago now? In March.
Three this year.
3 years. 3 years, yeah. In
March. You know, when you mentioned that you said that you were 5 foot and 148 kilos, like, can you just touch on like how that felt and how long it was that you wanted to change and what was your mental thoughts back then? Like, what was, you know, what were you thinking back then?
Well, look, and this is something I've only learned in the last 6 months. And it's really funny because you can tell everybody that you're okay being you. And I don't mind if I'm big because it doesn't bother me and I don't this. But the truth of the matter is that when you actually are carrying that much extra weight, it changes the way your body performs. It changes the way your body carries itself. It changes how you distribute your walking abilities, your balance. Like literally, as I've lost more weight, I had to learn how to hold myself, how to carry myself. And that all come out as we go on. But I think you're aware of how big you are, but it's like you put these blinkers or blinders on and you keep traveling along and saying, nah, everything's fine. But it actually just deteriorates your own self-esteem. And that's the most important thing that I've kind of found out of the whole process is that women spend so much time comparing themselves to other people or happily will rip each other down rather than compliment or build women up so they feel empowered within themselves enough to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah. And look, even our own self, we tear ourselves enough of another asshole, let alone have it happen, you know, in your outside world as well, right?
That's the thing. Like, you don't realize how much that internal little voice, how much damage that actually does to you.
Yeah. And this is why doing the inner work is so important. But I also as well, you know, like, you know, you said you did about 3 to 4 years of hard yards in the gym.
Yeah.
Like, what was the catalyst for you to be like, shit, I gotta look at something more? Like, it's got to be more than that, or there's got to be other components to this.
I think by the time I'd started like realizing that I had an emotional attachment to food, and that my main problem wasn't the food that I was eating, it was that I overate.
Yeah.
I was eating bigger portions, too many meals, and not enough. I wasn't thinking about that our body's like an engine and it only needs a substantial amount of food to function. And anything else extra you put in there, it's just going to stall. So it wasn't until I started learning the dynamics of what my body was. And like, as you know, but not everyone else knows, I had a broad range of medical issues that I wasn't even aware of at the time that over time unraveled and all made a lot more sense. And me, if I'd gotten as sick as what I had at the weight that I did, I probably would have died, because I nearly died anyway. But that was having heart. Like, I used to do the 1,000 steps or be at the gym, and then I'd be so puffed, and I was like, I'm so unfit and I'm so this. And rather than negatively talk to myself, I learned to retrain myself to go, you know what? No one's judging me in this gym, because I'm still getting off my ass and I'm showing up.
Yeah.
And people actually commend you for wanting to try and be a better version. But I knew that I had to make changes in my life, because I had my kids and I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. And going clothes shopping was absolutely just terrifying. And just normal things that everyday people just had, I didn't think it was an option.
Yeah. Until it became an option. Huh?
Well, everything's an option, but I didn't know that back then. Everything is possible. But yeah.
Yeah. And this is the thing, right? That's the whole process of the layers, you know, it's a little bit of interest, a little bit of curiosity, something that even a shock factor, so much as, you know, Pam giving you that feedback. I mean, what a set of lady balls she had to be able to do that from a place of heart.
Yeah, totally.
And love and concern. And also as well, you know, to be able to deliver that to somebody you care about and it coming from that space.
Yeah. And I think there were very few people that would ever have the balls to say it to me.
Yeah.
But I knew that it was not in a negative way. She only had my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's when I made the decision that I was going to combat whatever it was. I thought that weight or that the food attachment was the issue. And that's the funny part. I thought that weight was this big thing. And this is what I think all of us do. We go, I'm overweight. That's my problem. And it's so far from it. It's so far from it.
Yeah, it's about asking that. It's about what goes on beyond the weight.
Correct.
You know,
totally.
What led you eating larger portions? What led to you overeating? And we've all done it. Like every single person that be watching this, 100% is just like, I mean, hands up, who's eaten a whole entire tub of ice cream?
Oh, we've all done it. We've all
pizza too. Like, you know, we all do it, right? And I guess it's just whether or not it's, you know, it's useful, it's not useful, whether it's becoming a habit, whether you're doing it unconsciously, and what's your intention behind actually doing it.
I think that was it. My comfort was food, and that would have been something that had happened from a child because I'd had a lot of trauma. I ate food because it was the one thing that gave me a full stomach. It gave me the comfort. It wouldn't reject me. I could list you a million reasons.
It's yummy.
It gives you delight. It gives you fulfillment. It makes you excited. You have the taste buds. And I've now learned, like, there can be the most massive dessert that was served up to me when I was on holidays a week ago, and I can look at it and go, yeah, that's great. I don't have to finish it. I can have that brownie and ice cream and whipped cream and shit all over again some other time. I don't have to sit here and finish all of it. I can have a taste of it, a couple of mouthfuls, and I can walk away. I'm not going to deprive myself.
Yeah. And you're touching on a really good point there, right? I'm not going to deprive myself. So a lot of the time when, you know, I've worked with women like around weight, since I was like 20, I've been in business nearly 25 years. No, not 25 years, 15 years, sorry. Ooh, that time.
Don't make yourself that old. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not, but I'd be looking fabulous if I was. I work with a lot of women around weight, right? And a lot of it is in restriction. So, you know, I can't have that. I can't have that. I can't have that. I can only have one of those. Oh, you know, my coach said this. My trainer said this. Like, don't eat carbs. You'll get fat. Don't have alcohol. Don't have this. Don't have that. Also, like, look at some of the earlier days. So, like, you know, we're in the same decade, Peter. So, like, look at some of the details of some of those 12-week programs that were happening. 100 calories. How many women I still speak to?
You need to be in calorie deficit. You can't overeat this. And I think for the first time in my life, and it's really funny that you've just actually triggered something, because when I was younger, I used to go to my grandparents, you know, every week or whatever, and or even at home. And my mum or my family would like weigh me in once a week and do a height chart. And that kind of like scarred me because I was thought everyone's watching my weight, everyone's monitoring how I look. It's all about the way you look. Oh, you've got such a beautiful face. If you only didn't carry weight, if you only. So when you keep hearing that shit, you actually record it. And it's funny because my youngest son stayed with my grandfather and he came home and he was like, oh, I got weighed and I got my height chart done. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, don't listen to that. Don't worry about that. So there's a lot of things without realizing it until later.
Yeah.
That you process it, that you're like, that was a triggering point, or that placed some kind of placement in my mind, because sometimes our minds don't even work normally. Like, it can be the most insignificant thing that can trigger something.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? If you don't know something, you don't know it. And this is why, learning about yourself, I understand that you're also now studying NLP, which is freaking amazing.
Oh, that was, I think to be really honest, I was actually like thinking about it and talking with some friends, and they're actually part of your group. So, but I know them out of your group. So that's probably quite funny because they're friends of mine. And I was basically saying that when I packed my bags to go to Byron, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was installed for.
Yep.
At the time of when I made the trip, it was the best time. I couldn't have timed it better.
Yeah.
The day that I flew back, the following day, to rewind a little bit, I'd lost so much weight that the doctors basically said to me, you have to remove skin and have a mini tummy tuck. So I'd booked in for that, and that was the day after I got back from Byron Bay.
I remember. And just for everyone that's watching, Byron Bay was a Bosswoman Escape, which is the retreat that I run when there's no lockdown going on.
And I highly recommend, like, if anyone is considering doing it, do it. Don't sit there and go, but what about my kids? But what about my job? But what about, because I'll tell you something, like, it literally changed my life. And when I used to say to people, having that trip and having that idea of working through NLP changed my life, people go, but how? And it's really hard to sum it up in words, but the best way for me to explain it to you is I flew in thinking that I was doing a retreat and I was just going to work on me. And I was probably, I don't know if I'm the only person that stood up halfway through a session and just gone, that's it, I'm out. Like, I'm going to bed. Like, I'm walking out.
You're not the only one, actually. I had someone go lock themselves in the room for a day, and then she eventually came out. And I thought, what? Both of you was just like, that and woo!
I just kind of sat there and went,
running out like, damn.
And I'm not dealing with this all diva, stand up, storm out.
Yeah.
But when I hopped off that plane, when I got home, everything had changed. I don't know, my mind, my clarity, my belief system. Because the thing is, we build our belief system on what we're taught or what we see or what we absorb. But was it really my belief system, or was it just what I'd heard from other people that I've obtained in my mind without actually looking at myself and actually working out what my belief system was?
Yeah.
So I quit my job for 5 years. I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. It's draining me. It's not making me happy. And I had the surgery, and 8.5 kilos of skin was taken off me. And I recovered, and I had to learn how to walk again because my body frame couldn't lean forward anymore because it didn't have that extra weight. And then since the retreat, I think in the first year, I had a knee injury, so I couldn't hit the gym. So I didn't gym per se. Did a little bit.
I remember this.
Yeah, I did like basic TheraBands and things like that, booty bands, things like that. And I dropped 24 kilos in 1 year.
So let's sit with that. And anybody that is literally watching. So in a year, you didn't go to gym, you had your knee injury,
No.
which, by the way, on a metaphysical anatomy chart, knees are about moving forward. So
it's about letting go, and it can be from your female, male side, your heart, and letting go. Yeah.
Yes.
Letting go of the old, rebirth the new.
Yeah. And also thinking, think about the way you're going to move forward now, Peter. Think about, like, you've gone and changed and walked out a whole new woman, straighten your shit.
Yeah.
Then get home and it's like, cool, you can step back into the old ways of doing things, or here you go, work.
Well, it's easy. It is easy to fall back into patterns. It's like default. We go into this default pattern, and sometimes you have to stop yourself and go, you can't think like that. That is your old way of thinking.
Yeah.
And you have to pull yourself up. And that's why I think when you used to say to all of us, own your shit, people are like, yeah, I'm owning it. I'm eating ice cream, but it's not that. It's owning the fact that you're going back to your old pattern, and you have to pull your own shit up.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah.
And you do fall down, right? Like you do an old pattern, you're like, shit, pick yourself back up. But that's the work.
That's rechecking yourself.
That is the work.
Yeah. You keep rechecking yourself.
Get up, time, do it again. You're going to be the best project you will ever work on, literally, but it requires effort daily, commitment, practice daily. So 20, so sorry, we derailed a little bit from that, but 20 kilos in a year. And 24?
Yeah.
And how many kilos did that total at that point?
So 52 or 53.
Wow. And I just want to touch on a little bit. You mentioned it at the start. Yeah. And I know this, but people watching may not know this, right? So when you were, you lost your weight, would you say that weight was all contributed to overeating?
I would say it was emotional baggage too. I know this sounds really silly, but you will emotionally eat, but your body as well will react in a manner dependent on what the situation is. So for example, I came from a background that where I had been abused as a child, sexually abused. So I'd carried a lot of trauma. So I used eating because I thought that if I ate, I'd be unattractive, and then he'd leave me alone. And it's very, very bizarre how your mind pieces these ideas together.
Well, it's there to protect you, right? It's there
your body
protected.
And at the time, your mind and your body is doing what it thinks. It's doing the best it can. So you have to be thankful that your body and your mind has tried to do the best it can. You've got to acknowledge that, because if you don't acknowledge that, you can't move forward, because you'll hold this anger for yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, I realized that I overate to console the pain. I overindulged when I was younger in other things like alcohol and other substances. We don't need to go into names. But there was always something that I would over, but food was my emotional attachment, because it will never leave you. It will never hurt you, but it is, but it doesn't matter. You don't think that at the time. And I went through 2 divorces as well, which is really quite ironic, because you think that you can love someone else, but you've also got your own internal battles with other things. And sometimes as women, and this is something that's really, really important, we ignore all the signs and we keep it and hold it all together. And we're going, fine. How are you? I'm fine. How's things? I'm good. Yeah. But you know what? I think that women need to start saying, I'm not good. I need help. Help me. And if you can't be honest with yourself, you will never ever achieve even everyday goals, things. I can't be a role model for my kids if I'm not the best version of myself. I can't tell them, I expect you to do the best that you can do, when they're looking at me going, but Mum, look what you're putting up with or what you're doing. So,
and when you know the truth, and not speaking the truth, this is how we really become out of alignment, and we don't live in integrity with ourselves, and we know that. It doesn't matter whether anybody else knows it. We know it. And that shit compiles. Yeah.
You feel like the biggest dickhead in the world. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I can remember sitting there with you and Stacey. And I can just remember Stacey going, yeah, you're doing really well. But you just keep coming back to me. I'm like, I'm not a victim. And she's like, aren't you? And you're like, really? And I was like, I'm just going to go sit on that. And if anyone didn't know, Stacey is a kinesiologist that Eliza flew up to work with us. And funnily enough, I've had a couple of sessions with Stacey over the last 3 years. I think I've had 3. And the last session, she was just like, well, why are we talking? I was like, I don't know. I just felt really overwhelmed. So I just booked an appointment. And she's like, okay, so what do you want to talk about? We talked about the kids and we didn't really talk about, but you'll get to a place where
it's a nice space when you work with a coach and you get to a session where you're like, I don't know what to talk about actually. It's a really great reflection space because you're like, damn.
Well, funnily enough, it was my first day of my NLP course because I'd like booked to do this NLP course. Don't even what I learned in the small magnitude of those few days that I had with Eliza intrigued me enough and gave me so much passion and so much ideas that I was like, what if there's more that I can learn that I can use on my children or help my children? Like I go, even if I walk away from this and I just am a better parent, I'm doing it. And I had my first day at school and there was like Chinese herbalists and there were like spiritual guidance and there's this, and I'm just sitting there going, I don't have. So why are you doing the course? And they're like, I'm going out of my business. And I'm like, because I did a retreat and like 4 days wasn't enough.
I'll take a note of that.
Pick up my phone, text Stacey, can I have an appointment?
Hilarious. So I do want to let's like celebrate some stuff right now. So I love, we're covering off on so much already. So I do want to touch on a couple of things that you have created for yourself since you've started doing all of this self-work. So I noticed that you also launched your podcast.
Yeah, just about being a mum.
Yep. Can you tell everyone what that is and where they can find it?
I do some podcasts and I've got a website which is Ozmum's Madness, and it's basically, I'm really over all these mums that put these photos on Facebook. Oh, look at my children, we're baking cakes. And I'm just like, this is my kitchen. These are my children. I have a house cleaner because I can't keep up. And it's just being real about it, because I think that too many people strive for this fake perfectness. And the truth is, parenting is like the shittest job in the world. Like, I think I put a post up last night where I was like, have children, they say, they'll enrich your life, they say. And I'm going to freaking bed. Like, I'm out. Like, it's just a bit of a laugh. I've had a lot of companies come to me and I've got, I've had Rip Curl working with me. I've had some other people that are just like, this is great. This is funny. And it was something for me because I've always been a writer and I've been working on a book, and I've just I kind of lost touch with what I wanted to get out of it. So rather than sit back and go, I was like, let's just dip our toes in and see if other mums are ready to be real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the feedback you've got?
Oh, people love it. They think it's hilarious. Even I laugh at myself. Like,
yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
But on a serious note,
what I love about you, Peta, it's like, it's real and it's raw. It's got this like hint of sarcasm, a hint of like naughtiness, and it's just all mixed up together. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
If I offend anybody, I really don't mind, because this is about my life and my situation, how I read it. I'm purely here to entertain the people that have a sense of humor. And want to admit, and on a serious note though, I've used the platform to, and this is something I would never have done in my life, but I use the platform also to actually talk about things that I felt were necessary. So while COVID was on, February last year, March, government passed a bill, which was a massive thing called Let Us Speak campaign, where they were actually gagging victims of child sexual abuse and not being able to print their names and things, which actually hindered the whole process of me writing my book. And the old Peter would have sat there, burst into tears, crawled into bed, and not faced the world. And I kind of got the paper, looked at the paper. They're like, if people identify themselves, there's a $5,000 fine or you'll go to jail. I wrote 42 emails to members of parliament that day. I contacted the Hack. Triple J did an interview with me where they named me. I wasn't really fussed. The kids are like, you're going to go to jail. I was like, oh, that's cool. Just call someone from the family to back me out.
I'll record my podcast from jail.
Oh, pretty much. So basically, I kicked up a really big stink. And to be honest, I didn't think it would matter because of the kind of world we live in. About 5 days later, I got a personal letter from the Governor General of Victoria commending me and applauding me for my advocacy. She read my letter out in Parliament as an impact statement. And then I was asked to help rewrite the laws, which I've been involved in 2 different manners.
Wow. Wow.
So I helped rewrite how I was explaining to her that it's like re-traumatizing victims by gagging them.
Yeah.
And so, I helped rewrite the laws at what age is appropriate for children to self-identify and all these other things. And it was really, what I'm trying to say is, out of all of this, I would never have overcome the fact that I could actually speak out and not care. We don't care what someone thinks, but you actually don't care because you know what's right inside.
Yeah.
So that was a really big achievement for myself.
Congratulations. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the end tail of that. So wow. Like that's
So it's been good. I've done two helped with 2 law changes. And it's very nice to actually be heard on the front and know that you can actually speak for other people that may not have a voice. That's just one part. So I use the platform to basically try and combat things like that.
Yeah. And that's exactly, the driving force behind my business and why I do what it is that I do, is to help people step into their truth, be honest with themselves, and create a platform so that other people can feel safe to do the same thing.
Correct.
Yeah, because when we hold on to this stuff, now I'm writing about it this morning, so there's a post coming out this afternoon about it. Every time you swallow something, every time you pretend like you just don't, I know it's there, but I'm just going to turn my head and I'm going to look this way and pretend it's not. But if whatever it is that you're pretending is not there, that you're swallowing, that hurts you, and you hide it and you don't speak up. It's not always necessarily about speaking. You don't have to go create a podcast like you has or I have, and you don't have to shout it on your social media. This is what I mean by this is about speaking up for yourself.
What I call it is saying it out loud. If it matters to you, say it out loud, even to a mirror or to your most trusted friend, but acknowledging your own thoughts and feelings on whatever you feel, because you're allowed to feel.
No matter how you might think that perceived.
Correct.
Sometimes, we will, and this is where the comparison and, judgment comes in, right? So it's like, oh, that person's had it way worse than me. That person did this. And this is also why I am interviewing all my ladies and them speaking their story. You may or may not have seen, we share it every year. I love that we share it. Is your transformation. So your before and after.
That's not even the proper before. That's
which currently Peter's putting together with a new image. Even one in the Bosswoman, the original Bosswoman t-shirt.
Even on the photo by the pool, if you can even compare that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You may see these transformations. This used to grind my gears like no tomorrow. You see people before and after, but actually when you listen to the story or you hear, it is like Peter said, a 6-year transformation. And
It'll
it
never.
wasn't just about going to the fucking gym and
Oh,
just following a new diet, right?
and that's the whole thing. I think as well is you can't look. You know what? 6 years ago when I started, I was like, I'm going on a diet, but it wasn't a diet. This was a journey on learning about me. And for the first time in my life, like, it's really funny because like my friends go to me, well, what is it that you actually do? And I go, well, what makes you happy? And 9 times out of 10, my friends can't tell me what actually makes them happy. They'll go, my kids make me happy. And I'm like, no, they're little people. They're going to leave you one day. That doesn't make you happy. You're there as their guardian. I know they bring you joy, but they can't make you happy. What makes you happy? And I couldn't answer that question for a really long time. It's taken me nearly probably 5 years to find that answer. But I'm actually happy. Like, I'm genuinely the happiest I've ever been in my life. And yeah.
Yeah. One of the most powerful questions actually that kickstarted all of my coaching was when I very first worked with one of my first coaches, and she said to me, oh, cool, what do you want? And I was like, so I started listing all these things that I didn't want. Oh, well, I don't want to live out in the eastern suburbs, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to settle down and have a kid and get married right now. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do. Eliza, what do you want?
Yep.
And still couldn't answer, right? So she sat with me. We sat there for, I reckon it was around about 50 minutes. We just like worked our way through it. All of a sudden, this like a heave of emotion just came over me, and I just
sick. You physically feel sick. Like you feel your stomach turning, and you're like, oh, and you get overwhelmed, and yeah.
I just bawled my eyes out because I couldn't answer her. It took me around 3.5 months to actually write anything on paper and actually be like, okay, cool. So I think I would like this and this and this. And even
but it's okay to go back and scratch it out and rewrite it. This is where people get confused about rechecking yourself, because what last Monday before your period when you're moody as shit and a block of chocolate is not what you're going to maybe want.
And sometimes what you want in the morning ain't what you want at night.
You want at night, yeah.
So, it's a really powerful question. A lot of people actually do not know what they want or what makes them happy. And this is why, again, doing the self-work is so important, like building your own self-relationship so that you can get to know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, how are you going to expect other people to know you or understand you or even, communicate with you?
Not even just that. How can you have a relationship? It's like I was saying to my boys the other day, I was like, just because somebody likes you, I don't want you to date them, because these are the mistakes that we made. We don't know if you have the same life goals, the same ethics, the same way you want to bring up children. I'm like, just bring them home, let me suss them out. And if I say no.
There's a movie with that.
You don't think about these things when you're growing up, because you haven't basically been aware of it. And this is the thing that I'm so grateful for, is that I found this and I'm studying it, and I can at least try and give my kids a head start and all that stuff. Like,
you can definitely expand their awareness.
Totally.
And you being the best expression or version of yourself will then only lead to setting the example in which they can, and then they'll do their
own. And the other thing is, for the first time in my life, actually, I won't go into it too much just in case she watches this, but my mum and I, we actually got down to the nitty-gritties of, like, because we all have complicated relationships in our life. And the truth of the matter is, I'll tell you something, when you work through this shit ain't that complicated. It's just a matter of being really open and honest to yourself without sugarcoating it, or this idea of what it was or what it is, or this. It's basically like the Matrix. Are you going to have this idea of this system, or are you going to really look at what it is? And look, you just have to experience change in a different way.
And just keep being curious. Like, the biggest thing that I say to people who are maybe just entering the self-development world is anything that you come up against that might hit a nerve, frustrate you, piss you off. This is really interesting, right? Because whenever you're affected by something, it's always got to do with you. It never has to do with what's going on out there. It's all to do with you.
It's like I didn't realize how bad I got. I was saying to my other friend the other day, I was like, you're not actually, I know you're angry at your sister, but you're allowing your sister to make you angry. You realize that? And she's like, just leave me alone. Don't Jedi crap me, all right? Leave me alone.
When I first learned NLP, I lived with my beautiful housemate, Mitch. And I went home after the first couple of days and I was having a bitch about something. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's my fault? It's got nothing to do with me. It's got to do with they were the dick. Like, they were the asshole. What the hell? Don't tell
me. Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I love that, right? All my clients, we've all got the boss woman attitude. You know, and he was just like, Eliza, and I'm like, what's with the hand? He's like, I'm just showing you the level of resistance that you're showing me to see any different. And I was like, fuck you. I need to go process this. And we'll come back and talk about it.
I will tell you though, like, learning it, it's funny now because like I can ask the kids a question and they'll go, yeah. And I'm like, don't lie to me. I know when you're lying to me. Oh, okay, all right. Like, you just like, yeah.
The more you understand yourself,
the
more you get to understand.
No,
and it's not the other way around. I see this a lot in dating, and you know, we'll wrap this up in a second. You mentioned dating before, but it was a thing for me. That, you know, we do so much work, we try understand the other person as much as we can. We've got it all backwards. The person we need to understand is ourselves. And if you
can't fix anybody else, we can't fix people.
Yeah, and you can't get in somebody else's head. And this is why effective communication is so important. Learning how to speak up, speak out, even if it's just to yourself in the mirror. So, wow, this is awesome. We've been going for nearly 45 minutes.
Sorry.
So, no, sorry. Peter, I could talk to you for another 3 hours. So we will keep it to this, and maybe we might do a part 2 at some point.
Sure.
Because I would love that. So I'm just going to check if there's any comments. I don't think there is, or there. Oh, there is actually. No, there isn't. Comment. It does say there's a comment. That's all right. That's all right. We can answer the questions after Peter's in the group anyway. So thank you so much, Peter.
No problem.
I've had a ball and I really, really super stoked for you. So yeah, everyone that's watching, I will definitely, we'll post the trio photo underneath the video, and then we'll see it somewhere in social media, but I'll pop it under this video specifically. And then also you can find Peta at her podcast, which is
Mum's Madness. So yeah, basically Apple, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. And also web address, same kind of thing, .com, and on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Just put your podcast below in the comments, like that would be amazing. And then thank you so much. And I hope that anyone that is watching, that you got some valuable stuff from this. Even if it isn't valuable, it will be valuable at some point in your life, right? Just be whether you're ready to hear it or not.
Oh yeah. All
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll chat to you soon, Peta.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.